Hi, and welcome to yet another episode of Two Guys and a Lot of Wine. I'm your host, Bobby P.
And I'm James Kimbrough.
And we'll be featuring, it's in the summer, Jim. It's warm, it's beautiful. We like to call this our summer sipping show. And we're going to be featuring some great wines, I think, that are going to pair very well with summertime. And before we even get into the wine, I just want to answer a few questions. We've had some requests about the opening soundtrack to our show. And that's a friend of mine, Ray Hardman. You may be familiar with him from Morning Edition on NPR. He does have his own band. It's called The Radiation, and he's great. Please feel free to look him up on YouTube. He's got some great stuff, and better than what you're hearing.
He did the music for the intro and the outro. There's a separate song when the credits roll at the end of the show, and that's his work also.
Yeah, they're a great band to see, and please feel free to look them up. So, Jim, how is your summer going so far?
A lot of great wines out there. I try and tend to drink more of the whites during the summertime because you chill those at a cooler temperature. So it's better to drink something that's not going to make you sweat when you're in the sun.
Well, that's true. And my friends who know me know I love the beach. Whether I'm in Newport or Kennebunk, I like a good white wine this time of year. And we're actually going to start off in a few moments in a nice quirky one I found called the Beach House, which is a Pinot Grigio from Italy. I don't know if the camera can see, I've already got into that yesterday, but I managed to save a little bit for us to enjoy. I've already tasted it. You're going to taste it for the first time.
This will be my first time, yeah.
And I think we're going to jump right into this because there's only a little left, and it's still on the cool side because I just took it out of the cooler. It's called the Beach House. It's a Pinot Grigio from Italy. It is available locally on some of the wine stores in the area, whether it's wine cellars or I think super cellars might be able to get this one. But wine cellars in Farmington, I think, is where this one is from. And I'm really anxious to see what your opinion is of this.
Yeah. Now, the great thing about the Pinot Grigios are you can chill these very, very cold. Most white wines, you get them down to 46, 48 degrees. But with a Pinot Grigio, you can get it even colder, typically because it doesn't have a lot of fruit to it or a lot of body. So if you're in the hot sun, it's a great way to cool off an ice-cold Pinot Grigio. It's a blander wine, but it certainly lends itself to drinking very, very cold.
Well, before I offer my opinions on this, I'll let you take a few sips.
Now that actually, it has some fruit in it. Mm-hmm. Some of the Pinot Grigios are kind of tart or have a little bit of
oh, absolutely. Yeah.
bite to them. But this is very mellow, almost you can almost call it round.
I found what you said to be exactly true with this when I first had this yesterday, and I said, wow, this is really unlike any other Pinot Grigio I've had in a while, because you don't get that tart crispness right out of the bat when you take a sip.
Yeah, and it's very subtle, but I taste almost a little peach in this, or perhaps apricot. But it's a very pleasant fruit flavor. I like this.
Well, that's why a wine like this, especially this time of year, because especially if you're sitting outside, you really don't want anything that's too syrupy or overpowering like a Chardonnay. I know we've covered that before, but especially with the weather we're going to be having this coming week, temperature's going to be rising a little bit, might be a little humid. I think this is the kind of white you might be more comfortable with.
This is perfect outdoors. Yeah, I could drink this all day long. Probably not the best thing to do in the sun, but
you know, generally it is not the best thing to do in the sun, but as you said in the past, hydrate, drink some water,
that's right.
Balance it out. So wine connoisseurs or wine lovers such as us can still enjoy our wine and hydrate with water and still enjoy it. But after another sip, would you still say it's something that you would recommend? Because we've had
absolutely, yeah. Now we have had some bad wines.
We have had some bad wines right off the bat, actually. The friend I told you about in New York, he's 50-50. He steered us wrong one time. He bounced back the second time. But I haven't gotten anything from him since.
Well, I just recently, in the last week, tasted two other Pinot Grigios, which we'll be featuring on a future show, one of which I really loved, one of which was horrible, and I'm going to steer our viewers away from that. But this one is an excellent Pinot Grigio. I would recommend this. I'm giving it a thumbs up.
Oh, this is a big thumbs up for me. And once again, it's a great summer wine. It's got a great name, the Beach House, and especially if you're going away on vacation to a beach house, why not bring the Beach House Pinot Grigio? So I'm sorry I didn't have more for you, Jim, but
I'm going to have to go buy my own bottle now, aren't I?
It went down too easy and quickly last night. So a good start for the evening.
Absolutely.
One thing about Pinot Grigios is I do find that when people want a Pinot Grigio, at least some of the people I've gone out with at a restaurant and so forth, they tend to think it's all going to taste the same.
Right.
and they're expecting a certain characteristic when they have a Pinot Grigio. And with this one, and I think ones we've had in the past, there are distinct characteristics and differences in them.
Yeah, and I think what a lot of people are looking for when they just say Pinot Grigio, they're usually getting kind of a watery, watered-down experience. It's not a wine that typically has a lot of character, and so they want something that's just going to be in the background. It's not going to assault their senses. It's not going to jump out and just take over their tongue. So they're looking for something very subtle. And from time to time, you can get surprised by Pinot Grigio, and this actually is more of a surprise because there's a little bit of fruit to this.
Yeah, very much so. And once again, it's the kind of wine that I think goes great with, would go great with a pizza or a sauce or even a burger, and something a little spicy, I think would really go great with.
Absolutely, yeah.
And before we even get into the French Muscadet, we'll tell you a little bit about that because that's one of the ones that throws people off a little bit when they see that or they hear that terminology.
Let's go ahead and pour it.
Already? Okay. Once again, this is a French Muscadet, and this will be my first time having this. I purchased this about a year ago. It has been properly stored since that time, and I'm hoping that it will be properly stored on my palate in a matter of moments.
So you were following Tony's rule of thumb from our last episode. He was saying you don't want to store whites too long.
Correct.
This has only been in your cellar for a year.
Just 1 year.
Okay.
And it's one of the kind of wines that I am not overly familiar with. We've had them in some of our past experiences, whether it be out or having parties and so forth. But I think usually it's been a little bit later in the evening. So this actually might be a little earlier than I'm used to drinking this before food.
I've had a couple of really good Muscadets, and
you probably can't see it on camera, but actually it's a little bit more golden than the Beach House Pinot Grigio, a little bit more straw color.
Yeah.
I'm not sensing an aroma on this one.
No, I'm not either.
And a wine like this, when you're looking for it, a little sweeter, definitely more bolder in flavor.
Yeah, coming off of a Pinot Grigio to a Muscadet, that's what you would expect.
It's a great comparison, especially for novices at home, to try two different whites like this because there is such a distinct difference. I mean, this one I can still feel playing around in my mouth a little bit.
There's a little bit of a tingle still in the back of my throat, yeah.
And what would you serve something like this with? Is it still a cheese wine?
I could do shellfish with this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course you could do shellfish, yeah, that's true. And anything with a little spice, maybe? Or would the spice be a little...
A spice, if you're going to serve something spicy, you probably want to have something a little bit sweeter. And again, you could go back to the Beach House, and not that that was a really sweet wine, but that would do better with a spicy dish than this Muscadet.
So something like that, how would that be marketed in a wine store? I mean, what type of white, or where in a store is that category? Like, you have the Chardonnay section, you have the Sauvignon Blanc section.
Right.
Where does that fall?
I would rank this close to a Sauvignon Blanc. It's got a lot of the same characteristics. There's a little bit of a bite to it. There is some fruit. And it's a more complex wine than a Pinot Grigio or a Pinot Gris would be.
And this is another one where temperature probably should be a
46,
little...
48 degrees.
Not quite as cold as a Pinot Grigio?
Yeah. I mean, to go back to what we were saying about the Pinot Grigio earlier, that's usually, I mean, people are drinking that outdoors in the sun. It's in a bucket of ice, so it gets as cold as the ice does. I don't hear a lot of people being really concerned about the proper temperature for the Pinot Grigio. It's one of those wines that people just want it ice cold. And the colder, the better. And
So you could sometimes say the Pinot Grigio is the blue-collar wine of the
you really
the wine
could.
world.
I don't want to degrade it like that, but you could make that comment, yeah.
That's interesting because, Pinot Grigio is the kind of wine that I generally obviously drink more of this time of year than I do in the fall and winter. And it's sort of in the same league to me as a Sauvignon Blanc, though obviously Sauvignon Blancs can be a lot more complex.
And that's why people are drinking Pinot Grigio if they don't want to have anything going on in their mouth. The Sauvignon Blanc is very complex. It's got a lot of character, and there's so many different variations on the Sauvignon Blanc, so many different flavors you're going to get out of Sauvignon Blanc. Whereas Pinot Grigio usually falls into that category of it's just, it's soft, it's watery, it's a background wine.
And do you follow the same belief that the best Pinot Grigios are from Italy, or do you think California still could throw out some good ones?
California actually makes a couple of good Pinot Grigios. I just had one last night, and surprisingly, it tasted more like a Chardonnay. If I had blind tasted it, I would have said it was a Chardonnay, which is shocking because when you look at the spectrum, you've got Pinot Grigio at this end and Chardonnay at this end, and then the Sauvignon Blancs and the Muscadets in the middle here. So this went from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other end of the spectrum. It had body, it had character, had some buttery notes to it. It was a complete surprise. And if somebody had put a brown label on the bottle or a brown bag on the bottle and said, guess what this is, I would have said Chardonnay.
And I know we've talked about that when we first started this show, that we will be having either friends or maybe just strangers come in, and we'll be doing some blind tastings with them to see what their opinions are. It's a little difficult in the studio for only 30 minutes to have a big tasting, but maybe 3 tastings with things that I think would really fool people, that they might be quite surprised that they like or don't like.
That'll be a great show, yeah. Wines that will fool you.
Wines that will fool you, yes. That's, make a note of that.
Future episode.
Once again, this is, I'm going to give this one a thumbs up too, I think.
I am too. This is another good wine. Thumbs up for this one.
And my bias towards French wines is still showing strong because there's actually very few French wines that I don't like. And I know, Jim, you sometimes think they're too minerally or too...
Sometimes there's too much terroir in the wine for my taste, but I understand that that's how the French produce the wine. That's what they want when they're producing a wine like that. So, and again, everybody's palate is different. So wines that I like, maybe you're not going to like, although I think you and I have a very similar palate to begin with.
We do. The problem with us is we pretty much like everything, so it's really got to be awful for us to say bleh. So it's both so far this evening, both these wines are 2 thumbs up.
Pick
so
some winners.
That's exciting. And Muscadet, is that strictly something that only you can sell under a French label, or could you get that varietal somewhere else?
I think that's more of a name for the grape varietal rather than the region, like a Champagne. And when you're selling Champagne, it has to be from the Champagne region of France. Otherwise, you have to call it a sparkling wine.
Interesting.
But I believe the Muscadet is just the grape varietal. So.
Oh, okay. Well, this grape varietal is okay by me, so I'm going to finish this one.
I'm enjoying it too. And we're going to move on to our next wine.
We're going to move on to the reds now. And as always, you can never usually go wrong with a Spanish, so I have selected a Capitoso, which is, I believe, a 100% Tempranillo blend. It's not a blend, I'm sorry. It's 100% Tempranillo.
100% Tempranillo.
Tempranillo. Once again, Jim corrects me because he's the expert in the terminology. I will do a small pour on this.
I probably did better in foreign language in high school.
Now, this is very interesting already. It's a very dark, sort of muddy-looking color. This is a 2005. And...
yeah, it's got some brown coloration here, which is unusual. Usually you expect to see some red or some purples, but this is leaning more towards the brown end of the color spectrum.
It sure is. And as usual, you can see some of the legs on this glass.
Very long legs.
Very long.
That indicates a lot of body.
So this wine is 7 years old. I've had it cellared probably for the last 2. And there might be an episode where we actually open up something on the show that has gone bad.
It can happen. I mean, wines can get corked very easily.
And it's no fault of your own or our own. It's one of the characteristics of a wine.
Right. Yeah, if you do buy a bottle and it's corked, you taste some kind of musty taste to it, or it just smells foul when you open the bottle, take it right back to your wines, the store that you bought it from. They will return it and exchange it for you. That's part of their policy. They just send that back to the distributor. Oftentimes, the distributor sends it back to the vineyard. So it's it's not like you shouldn't feel like you're doing the store a disservice by taking wine back. If it's gone bad, return it.
Well, I'm very curious to see what this is going to taste like because I've never seen a color quite like this before in the reds that we've opened up on the show. Well, once again, it's another example of how you can be deceived. This is not bad.
It's subtle. I was expecting it to kind of jump out at me. There's just a hint of pepper in this, but I was really expecting it to overpower my tongue, and it's so subtle.
It's funny because, as Jim said, when you look at a wine in a glass, and once again, it's probably hard to see on TV, the color sometimes might be a characteristic of what it's going to do when you actually drink it. Is it going to attack your taste buds, or is it going to subtly massage and love your taste buds? And this is one of those that sort of skirts the line of both.
It's odd, yeah, because if you see a kind of a weak color, if you can almost see through the wine, usually that indicates that there's not going to be a whole lot of flavor to it. Perhaps you'll get some earthy notes, but in this case, yeah, there's a little bit of leather and just a hint of pepper.
I'm really picking up the pepper on this one. But this is yet another example, especially, you're probably saying, well, you don't want to drink anything that's heavy in the summertime. It's not a heavy wine. The characteristics are there. The texture is there. But I think this is still something you can enjoy on a summer evening, maybe under the shade, consuming with a steak that's freshly grilled, probably by Jim because he's a good cook, or myself. But this is really interesting.
Absolutely. Again, it's another great pick for summer. When you think of big, bold red wines, those are the types of wines you want to drink when it's colder out.
Absolutely.
That you feel like you drink that and you kind of warm up. If you were to drink that in the summertime, the thought process is, this is just going to make me start sweating. So when you move to a wine like this, it is kind of, I'm not going to say cool, but
yeah.
It makes me feel like I'm not going to start, just breaking out in a sweat.
It's not that heaviness that you get with some wines, which is fine if the occasion is right. This one, though, I'm actually really surprised at how much I'm enjoying this one. Because, like I said, I haven't had this one before, and this is really quite nice.
I think it's perfect for just sitting outside and drinking this by the fire or by the grill. It works well with anything that would come off the grill in the summertime. You could do a burger with this. You could do a steak with this. It seems like it's going to be very versatile with whatever you're pulling off the grill. And again, if it's really hot out, this is not going to be a wine that upsets your palate.
And once again, it is a Spanish wine, and I love Spanish wines. And if memory serves me, I'm not as good as Jim when it comes to keeping records. I think this was purchased from .com before they became Maximum Beverages in West Hartford, Bishop's Corner. So if that is the case, and I hope it is, feel free if you do go to Maximum Beverages to ask for this particular one, because I definitely think this is a winner.
Yeah, they have pretty much the entire same stock that they had back when they were .com, and because they're in a bigger space, they've expanded. So they've got all the old stuff plus a whole bunch of new wine in there. So I would expect them to still carry this.
Have you been to Spain?
I've been to Spain, yeah.
Did you get a chance to try a lot of, obviously you tried a lot of wines when you were in Spain.
We drank a lot of Tempranillos when we were in Spain.
Are they any different there compared to what they ship here, or is it a little bit fresher?
No, it's pretty much the same kind of taste. It's, a lot of times you hear about a country producing really great wine and keeping it for themselves and sending the crap over here to the United States. But with the Spanish, I've always found that the Tempranillos that they send over here and the Cavas, the sparkling wines, are really good.
Which have really taken off. The Cavas have really been phenomenal.
And a lot of that's driven by price. The Cavas are a lot cheaper than champagne. But you get the same great flavor and the bubbles.
You do, as we said before, as always, where there's bubbles, there's troubles, no matter what type of bubbles they are. And, it's interesting because I had the fortune of traveling to Europe and spending some time there. And there was one particular red wine in Hungary that I just fell in love with. It's called the Red Bull, and it's an ancient Hungarian red. And you can actually still find that here in the States. I think Liquor Depot has it. It's not that expensive, but if you really want a taste of what type of wine they've been drinking for centuries, the same way they've made it then, or the same way they make it now, is the same way they made it 1,000 years ago. It's called Red Bull. It's a Hungarian wine. And I don't know if
we'll put that on a future show.
We will put that in a future show.
We'll do an ancient winemaking show and feature that and a couple others.
That is a fantastic.
And we're just coming up with all kinds of great ideas.
Well, you know why that's a good concept is because, I don't know if you've been following the news lately, but they've been finding hordes of Roman coins buried for centuries. They've been doing a lot of excavations and finding ancient Roman roads that they're just finding out now as they're doing construction. So I think that all ties into ancient ruins, ancient wine, good times for Jim and Bob. So you can't go wrong. So I'll let you tell me about the next one.
All right, the last one we have here, this is the Apothic Red. I've had this on a couple of occasions. It's a blend. It is Red Zinfandel, Syrah, Merlot, and Cabernet Sauvignon. So you get the kind of the spicy notes from the Zinfandel, you get the big boldness from a Cab, and then the Merlot kind of smooths it out right at the end. And then, of course, the Syrah has a lot of fruit to it. Actually, I've heard people call this a fruit bomb. So we're going to try this, and it's going to be like this explosion of fruit in your mouth. It's got a lot of character. There's so much going on with this wine. It's going to change several times in your mouth. This is what I...
Well, you really built this up, Jim.
All right. Yeah, if this bombs like your friend's wine bomb.
I'm expecting a Mozart symphony in my mouth right now. So this is going to be very interesting. Before we even drink this, once again, another classic example of the color differences between two different reds and two different varietals.
Yeah, this is a lot of purple, and it's a much darker color than the last one.
Very much so. And yeah, the legs are similar. Seems a little heavier, but I could be wrong. Generally, we would use fresh glasses, but just for time's sake, we're using the same one again. But
yeah, you get a lot of blueberry on the nose.
oh wow, yeah, right off the bat.
It just jumps right out at you.
It sure does, right off the bat.
This is not a subtle wine at all. And I'm assaulted by so many different flavors right now. I'm getting some vanilla. I'm getting some kind of spice. A lot of berries. A little bit of either molasses or kind of a syrupy kind of
Molasses is an interesting comparison because I was going to actually say something like molasses. You did it for me. The pepper notes here are a little bit more mild than was in the Tempranillo. But it's there, but it's more mild. But the molasses, I think, is a good characteristic. Now, don't let that scare you. Though there's a molasses taste here, I still don't think this is a heavy wine.
Oh no, not at all. It's not syrupy, and it's not it's not clinging in my mouth. And if I had to say anything bad about the wine, it's just the finish. It just
fades away quickly.
Dries up. It fades away and dries up in the mouth really quickly. So.
And that's once again, those who've been watching us now. I think this is our eighth show. If you had the opportunity to, broaden your horizons and go try different wines that you haven't tried before, I hope you're doing sort of what we're doing. You're trying different stuff to see the characteristically differences between two different types of red, two different types of white. And though they can be mild, sometimes they're very blunt, like right in your face. Like I think we had Tony on from Super Cellars last show, and the Italian wines that he brought on, the characteristics from each different one were phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we were dealing with a price point that was a little bit higher.
But every winemaker has different notes that they want to highlight in a wine. They've got different features that they want to showcase. And so, certainly when you see something like this, which is a blend, a winemaker sat down and said, okay, I'm trying to get this kind of taste from a wine. How can I get there? What can I blend into the bottle to get that kind of taste? If you're just dealing with a single varietal, you're kind of stuck with what you get from that grape.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tweak it a little during the winemaking process, but if you start blending, that gives you a lot more options as to how you're going to craft a wine and get it to taste a certain way.
Absolutely. And once again, don't be afraid to try blends because some people are so prone to just, once again, stick to what they know. And from experience, I can tell you, go to what you don't know because I'm telling you, you're going to end up finding something that you're really going to like. And
yeah, just keep exploring. There's a lot of great wines out there.
Keep exploring. And how did you find this one?
Well, actually, I went into a wine store. I was looking for a different wine, and they were sold out of it. And the store owner told me, this Apothic tastes similar to what you're looking for. And I took it home and tried it, and I was like, well, this is even better than what I was looking for. So it's been one of my go-to wines since then. And this is actually under $10. This is a great value.
Actually, we haven't even discussed price points tonight. I mean, as you know, we generally try to keep things under the $20 price point. And I think everything here on the table tonight is under the $20 price point. The Beach House Pinot, if memory serves me, I think it was between $12 and $14.99, and that's the same for these three that are here in that same price range. And
so they're all under 15, and this one's under 10.
Yeah, all under 15. And once again, it's another example of quality wines that you can get without breaking the bank.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of great wines out there.
Which is why we wanted to do the show because there's so much available right now.
Before we end, I wanted to show our listeners, our audience, real quick. There's a problem that some people have written to me and said, I stain my tablecloth all the time when I'm pouring wine. They pour from the bottle, and then they get a little drip that comes down the bottle, and next thing you know, it hits the tablecloth.
Yep.
And they said, how can I get rid of that? Well, the first option is you just take a rag, and when you're pouring, give it a quick pour, wipe the bottle. You can also use a coaster. Anything that drips off the bottle is going to hit the coaster. There's another technique where you can put a collar on the bottle, and anything you pour is going to just hit the collar, get soaked up there. And the last one, and this is my favorite actually, this is a double-lipped spout. And normally you put a spout in a wine bottle, and the drip is still going to come over the edge, come down the bottle. With this one, and I hope we can get in tight on this, it's actually, there's two lips here. So the wine hits the first lip, and the little drip that would normally come down the bottle hits the second lip, goes back into the bottle.
We also want to talk about a couple other things tonight before we end the show.
Yes.
And,
we're on Facebook now.
We are on
We would
Facebook.
like you to friend us, or like us, or share us with all your friends on Facebook.
and that's Two Guys and a Lotta Wine.
Two Guys and a Lotta Wine. We spell Lotta L-O-T-T-A.
Yep.
And if you want to watch previous episodes of our show, you can go to whctv.org, not .com, but .org, and watch previous episodes of the show. And we're now on YouTube as well.
That's
so
correct.
if you want to watch some previous episodes, we've got the first 4 episodes up on YouTube, and we'll be adding as time goes on.
And I wanted to also say that those of you who are looking for interesting gifts, this is one of my favorites. It is a gift bottle topper. You can get these at www.designergals.com. Sorry, but that's actually what the name of the website is. You can put your own face, your own body design, and then you just fold it back. And when you're giving gifts to people, it goes right in the bottle like that. And then you could look as cute as me, as my lovely wife, Carrie, when you give your gift to somebody. And this is also very important. I want to get this in before we go. If you do a lot of wine tasting dinners at your house, this is a little pad that you could also get. Actually, this is available in a lot of stores. It lists all the different vintages and the flavors. You can sit down with your friends, put little check notes next to each flavor, have a lot of fun. We've done this.
Bob and I have used this quite a few times, and it actually helps us kind of pick apart a wine. So we can sit down with a wine and hit some of these check boxes and say, it's got a straw color, it's got a lot of jamminess to it, or it's got no body, or it's got a lot of body.
And this is really helpful early in the evening, generally later in the evening. It doesn't matter. Things get out of control.
At the end of the evening, but it also helps you to go back in the future. You can, at the end of the evening, just collate all of your friends' responses and say, okay, most of the people like this particular wine, and most people hated this wine. So it helps you get an idea of what to serve at future parties.
So to wrap it up tonight, thumbs up for everything on the table. Please feel free to try these, look them up, and no thumb down. Thumbs down, right?
No thumbs down this week. No.
Thumbs up.
Love
thumbs
them all.
up.
Thumbs up.
And in conclusion, yet another fantastic show. I'm Bobby P.
And I'm James Kimbrough.
And until next time,
Keep
us in your wine cellar.